The response, if you thought that Donald Trump had exhausted his capacity for the extraordinary, think again. In a press conference that has left jaws on the floor and fact checkers scrambling, Trump has announced that the United States is going to take over the Gaza Strip, depopulate it, and develop it as a glittering paradise, a Riviera of the Middle East where the world's people could come and enjoy beachfront real estate. The plan, delivered with the casual bravado of an estate agent mogul who once mused about buying Greenland, has shattered diplomatic norms and, more alarmingly, international law. Because, unless we forget, annexation by a foreign power, forced displacement of civilians, the expropriation of land are all considered in legal parlance war crimes. This is actually what Vladimir Putin has done. Trump, ever the salesman, framed his vision in terms of economic revitalization. We will develop it. We will create thousands of jobs. We will do a job with it. But who exactly is we remains a mystery. This thing is drenched in we. The US military, the private enterprise, Trump hotels, Tom Hanks. And more pressing, however, is the moral and legal abyss into which this plan plunges. He started the day arguing that Palestinians had no alternative but to leave the ruined, bombed-out territory, and ended up by claiming that the United States would take ownership of it. Who would live there? The world's people, Trump mused. Palestinians also, he added as an afterthought. The international response was swift and condemning. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar. The UAE signed a furious letter to the US Secretary of State warning against any displacement of Palestinians. The Saudi Foreign Ministry firmly stated that any peace in the region is not a matter for negotiation without Palestinian statehood. China declared its opposition to any forced transfer of Palestinians. Even the Biden administration, whose default setting is to ignore Trump's antics, was forced to issue a statement distancing itself from the proposal. Hamas described the remarks as ridiculous and absurd, a rare moment of agreement between them and half of Washington. A Democratic senator simply sighed. He's totally lost it, he said. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, was positively beaming. Well, why not? Standing beside Trump, he hailed his willingness to think outside the box and suggested that this was the kind of bold thinking the region needed. The Israeli far right, which has long harboured fantasies of annexing Gaza and expelling its Palestinian inhabitants, saw Trump's announcement as a golden endorsement. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, a hardliner known for his calling of voluntary migration of Palestinians, thanked Trump for his vision, as did far-right politician Itamar Ben-Gvir. Donald, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship, he posted on Twitter. To Palestinians, the idea of mass displacement is not theoretical, it's historical trauma. The 1948 Nakba, or catastrophe, saw over 700,000 Palestinians expelled or forced to flee their homes, with their descendants still living as refugees in Gaza, the West Bank and beyond. And Trump's plan openly calls for history to repeat itself. It would nullify any pretense of a two-state solution, erase Palestinian sovereignty, and install the US as a colonial power in a land where it has neither jurisdiction nor legitimacy. It would also require the forced removal of 2 million people, a policy indistinguishable from ethnic cleansing. Even in the US, reaction to Trump's plan has been skeptical at best, horrified at worst. And the Republican Senator Lindsey Graham dryly remarked that he doubted most South Carolinians would be thrilled about sending American troops to take over Gaza. Former Republican Congressman Justin Amash, whose father was expelled from his home in 1948, was blunt. If the US deploys troops to forcibly remove Muslims and Christians from Gaza, it will be guilty of ethnic cleansing. I wonder what the Pope has to say, who speaks daily with a parish in Gaza. The prospect of a long-term military occupation of Gaza conjures memories of America's costly misadventures in Iraq and Afghanistan. Experts have already predicted that Trump's ownership of Gaza would require decades of commitment, tens of thousands of troops, and untold billions of dollars. In practical terms, the proposal is unlikely to go beyond the realms of Trumpian fantasy. Arab nations have rejected it outright, the international community is aghast, and even within the US, serious policymakers view it as unhinged. Yet the sheer fact that a new president and a former president is proposing such an idea is a dire warning about the state of American foreign policy. This is not just another outlandish Trump remark. This is a blueprint for chaos, regional instability, and perhaps even war. And as for Trump himself, one suspects that if the plan goes nowhere, he'll simply move on to his next proposal, perhaps a golf resort on the ruins of the Al-Aqsa Mosque or a Trump Tower in the West Bank. After all, in his mind, the world is just another piece of real estate waiting to be developed. It's another place where he can imprint his name, where he can inseminate his personality.